Hey guys, what is up? Welcome back to my channel. Today we're talking all about the books I read in the month of May. May was a really great reading month. I actually don't think I was really let down at all once, thankfully, because March and April were not that way. So I'm really excited to talk about these books today. I will talk about the stars I gave each book and also a little review, but just in case you want to check out my full review, because I always do long reviews on Goodreads, the link is always down in the description box. So I am going to try and remember to go in the order I read them. And first off would have to be Kingdom of Ash by Sarah J Maas. I was so excited to finish the Throne of Glass series. I have to say I gave this 5 out of 5 stars, and I would give it 5 out of 5 stars again. Like, I thoroughly enjoyed it. I thought it was such an incredible ending to this epic adventure fantasy series. It gave you like everything you wanted and needed. It is so big though, guys. It's 980 pages, so it definitely took me about a week to read, and I spent a lot of time reading this. I feel like if I didn't have as much time to spend reading this, it would have taken me like 10 days or like 2 weeks, you know, because it is very big. It doesn't seem so big because they use tiny pages, but it is just under 1,000 pages. I can't really say much about this book without giving it away, but I will say, you know, 5 out of 5 stars. I basically thought it was so close to perfect. Literally, you had great things happen, you had heartbreak happen, you had sad things, very happy things, you had resolutions on everything you needed resolutions to, and I just feel like everybody got what they, like, every story arc was completed, everybody got what they had been searching for in some way or another, and I loved this so much. I miss it. It's been about a month since I finished this book, and I miss this series so much. Like, I already want to do a reread, but definitely won't be doing that till probably next year. The next book I read was The Night Circus by Erin Morgenstern, I think is how, yeah, Morgenstern. I love this book so much. It is so different from anything I've read. So if you don't know the premise of this book, basically we have a girl and a boy, and the book shows them from like when they were very young. And this isn't giving anything away, by the way. This is literally just like the premise of the book. And there's these two older guys, and one is the dad to the girl and the other one is a friend, a long weird relationship kind of friend. And he comes up to, they decide they want to do another challenge, and they make the little girl and the little boy the two people who will be like the main players in the challenge. Basically, it takes place at a circus, it surrounds a circus. This whole thing comes up out of nowhere, like this idea to build a circus. There are so many interesting players in this book, like so many interesting characters, and they all add to the plot in such a unique way. I loved the hint, well, not hint, I mean, there is a romance for sure in this book. I thought it was going to be more of a romance by the way it's described, but it definitely takes kind of a backseat for a while, which is fine. It made sense to the book. I loved it so much. I really loved our two main characters, Marco and Celia. Like, they have my heart. I loved them so much. I just thought this book was so like dark and mysterious and intriguing and unique and so different than anything else I've read before. I did give it 5 out of 5 stars. And I really want to do a reread around October because I feel like it's just a very like Halloween-y, fun book like that, you know? I don't know. I think I'm going to do a reread in October. Plus, there's so much to this book that you're going to miss something and you don't realize that you've missed it until like you're at the end of the book. You know what I mean? Like, I just feel like a reread would do this book justice, you know? Love The Night Circus. Okay, the next book I read in the month of May was Restore Me by Tahereh Mafi. This is the 4th book of the Shatter Me series. If you didn't know anything about the Shatter Me series, there is a trilogy, and then she took a few years off, the author, and she decided, let me do another one. So she kind of like is adding on to the original trilogy. This is Juliet's continuation. Again, I can't really say too much about this because it'll give away the original plot, but if you are anywhere on book Twitter or booktube or freaking Goodreads, you know the hype surrounding Warner. Warner's what keeps me reading this series, honestly. I think he's one of the most complex, diverse, three-dimensional characters that Tahereh Mafi has written about. He's just like so unique and has like a very interesting backstory, kind of something that tugs at your heartstrings a little bit, but also makes you angry. Just like lots of things go into who he is, and I really love that. I think it's so intriguing, so unique. He's what keeps me reading. I gave this, I don't think this was a bad book at all. I gave it 4 out of 5 stars. I think I was really close to giving it 3.5 out of 5 stars, but I did enjoy it more than I thought I would. The Shatter Me series is just something that I feel like is really great for teenagers. Like if you're a teenage reader, you would love this, but I think as you get older, you kind of grow out of the thought process that Juliet has. That being said, I don't have any like bad feelings towards these books. I think they're good books. I just think it's better for a younger person to read it. With all that being said, I did thoroughly enjoy this book. I just know what to expect with them now, and I would recommend this to others. I enjoyed it, obviously, 4 out of 5 stars. I'm here for Warner. That's that. The next book / novella that I read, I don't have a physical copy of because it is the Shadow Me novella, which is in between the Restore Me and then the next Shatter Me series, and it's called Shadow Me, and it's basically Kenji's point of view, and I love Kenji, don't get me wrong. I think he's hilarious. I love his unique personality and everything, but I just felt really unnecessary. Like, this novella felt more unnecessary than Adam's novella from like 3 books ago or something like that. Adam's novella made sense because it told us what happened in between, like, I don't want to say anything because it'll give it away, but in between book 2 and 3, there was like a little gray area, and I feel like Adam's novella told us what happened. With Kenji's, I just felt like it wasn't important. After I was halfway through the first chapter, I was like, yeah, this isn't important, so I basically just skimmed it. I gave it a 3 out of 5 stars. I don't think it's a bad book. I just didn't care so much. And I kind of wanted to care because it was Kenji, but I was just like, you know? Okay, and next up, no surprise, I read Defy Me. This is the most recent book in the Shatter Me series. This came out in April, very beginning of April, so it's only about 2 months old. This is actually also the shortest book in the Shatter Me series, which is kind of interesting when you think about it, but this book was intense, and I actually liked it way more than I thought I would. For some reason, when I started reading this book, I was under the impression that it had bad reviews, but then when I finished, I went and looked at the reviews, and I was like, oh no, it actually has good reviews. I really liked it. You find out a lot to the plot. Like, this is the book where you find out like all those, like, you have answers to all those weird questions that the first book sets up. And I thought it was a really unique, intriguing way to follow up with the original trilogy, since there's this other one right now. What I will say is, it was obvious to me that Tahereh Mafi didn't come up with this stuff when she was writing the first trilogy, obviously, because it took her a couple of years to write this trilogy, but I don't think it was bad. It would have been like more fun if there were Easter eggs for this series, like this trilogy, in the original trilogy, but that doesn't make it bad by any means. I don't know, it just wasn't, I mean, I still really liked it. I think I gave it like 4.5 out of 5 stars. Well, 4 stars. I gave it 4 stars. I really liked the crazy things we find out in this book. I thought it was really intriguing. I highly recommend this series. If you just want like an easy read and a fun story, you'll get it out of this. I don't really have much else to say about the Shatter Me series, and I can't really say too much because obviously it would give away the series if you haven't read it before, you know? The next book I finished in the month of May was The Hobbit. This was actually on my TBR for the month of April, and I did pretty well in April, and then I completely stopped reading it for like 3 weeks. And so I basically switched to Audible. So I listened to about 80% of this on Audible. And it's kind of funny because I couldn't really find the words to say. When it comes to classics like this, I don't really want to do a full-on review on Goodreads. So I just give it a star review, and then like, that's about it. But my friend here on BookTube, Ali Corvier, I think is how you pronounce her name. Sometimes I want to say Corveri, because I'm pretty sure in God's Grave that's how you pronounce Mia's last name, Corveri. Anyways, she said it so perfectly. She also finished this book last month, so she talked about it in her wrap up from May. And she said, like, I feel the exact same way. Basically, is it a great book? Yes. Was it like so incredible for its time in being a fantasy novel and all of that? Yes, but the standards we have for fantasy stories, whether it be movies or books or TV shows, but especially books, obviously, is we need a little bit more epicness, a little bit more of a satisfying ending, and this just doesn't deliver. So I was really curious because I've seen all the movies, obviously, and I know that the movies added a lot to the to the story of the Hobbit, and I totally understand why they did, because they had to make it more like epic, you know, more, it has to sell, it has to be more entertaining, it has to like be more fun, and this kind of lacks that. Don't get me wrong, I really enjoyed this book. I gave it 4 out of 5 stars. I don't think there's anything wrong with it. I just think when you're comparing it to fantasy we get in the young adult world these days, and even like adult fantasy like Game of Thrones and stuff like that, you get a lot more epicness, more adventure, more high stakes. It just feels a little bit bigger, and this didn't. You know what I mean? There's nothing wrong with this. I still love Bilbo. I still love the entire world of Lord of the Rings. It's like my favorite movie trilogies of all time. Like one of my favorite movie trilogies of all time. Movies of all time, you know? I just love it so much. But, you know how I feel? I don't know. I was just like slightly disappointed. And then the last book I read in the month of May became one of my new favorite books of all time, and that is Six of Crows by Leigh Bardugo. Now, if you've watched some of my reading vlogs, then you would kind of already know how I feel about this, but I'm sorry, I'm gonna talk about it all over again. So, just a quick preface to this story. If you've been around my channel when I've been making book videos for the last like 5 months or so, you would know that I did not enjoy Shadow and Bone series. I liked 2 characters from it, the Darkling and Nikolai. I thought they were very diverse, very intriguing characters, especially Nikolai. He has a very intriguing past, very diverse personality, like very fun and energetic. Literally everyone else in the series was so drab and blah and like gray to me, you know what I mean? Like lackluster. Especially the main love interest, he just has like no personality, and I just like wasn't here for it, you know? I thought the world was really cool. I really liked the world, but the story, the Chosen One story, just didn't really hit me. Like, you know what I mean? It just didn't really sink into my soul, I guess. And I just felt like our main character didn't really have any growth from the beginning of the first book to the end of the third. That's my feelings. Do I think they were bad books? No, I just think they weren't great, you know? Well, Leigh Bardugo really shocked me with this one, because I genuinely did not expect to have this book become a favorite book of all time, because this is in the same world as the Shadow and Bone series, but it is so different. I actually bought, it's too high up to reach, but I bought the collector's edition because it's like $15 on Book Depository, and it's so cool. But at the beginning of the book, Leigh Bardugo has like a little note in it, and she basically said she had this inspiration for our one main character, Kaz Brekker, and then one day she was driving on the freeway and then had an inspiration to write like an Ocean's 11 style heist book, but in like the realm of her like the Grisha realm. And that's honestly like the perfect way to describe this. It's a fantasy novel. It takes place in the same universe as the Grisha trilogy, but it's in a different country. It's like a little island. You see like Ravka, which is where Shadow and Bone takes place, and then Ketterdam is a little island. Is it Kerch or Ketterdam? That's the island. Yeah, Kerch is the island, Ketterdam is the city they live in. So we have 6 main characters. I love this book so much, I'm sorry. We have 6 main characters, Kaz Brekker, Inej, we have Nina, Matthias, we have Jesper, and Wylan, and I love them all so freaking much. Like, Kaz Brekker and Inej, Kaz and Inej have become 2 of my favorite characters of all time from anything I've ever read, watched, or seen, or heard about. Like, I love them so much. I feel like, obviously separately, they are such incredible characters. Kaz's story is insanely heartbreaking, and I love the way Leigh Bardugo chooses to tell their backstories. Like, she gives it to you really slowly throughout the entire book, so you're always constantly wanting to know why they are the way they are. It's so good. And Inej is just such like a bad A. She's like so powerful, but also so in tune with her emotions, and so loving and caring and nurturing with her friends. And I don't know, it's just so good. Jesper and Wylan have the cutest chemistry. I love them so much. And Matthias and Nina are just like, I love Nina. I love how she's like tall and curvy. I feel like that's not super prevalent in fantasy novels, but I just like that Nina was tall and like curvy and voluptuous, and I was just like, I freaking love that. And Matthias has a great character arc. Anyways, you just have to read this book. I feel like I've been talking about it for so long. I don't really have much else to say, but if you want to read my Goodreads review, you should, because I probably say about the same things, but I just love this book so much. I mean, obviously, if you couldn't tell, it's a 5 out of 5 star book, you know what I mean? Like, new favorite book of all time. It's kind of funny with my TBR. I had, I think originally only 5 books. I had Kingdom of Ash, God's Grave, The Night Circus, Six of Crows, and Restore Me. And I ended up deciding not to read God's Grave this last month. I think I'm going to wait to read God's Grave till closer to when Dark Dawn comes out. So then it'll be fresher in my mind, you know? I don't know. And I just feel like the book is so complex that it would, and there's so much to Nevernight, that it would be so much better to like wait to read it till closer to Dark Dawn so that it's still all in there, you know? And then Defy Me wasn't on my TBR because I wasn't planning on reading it, but I know how I am with the Shadow Me series, and I ended up reading it right after I was done with Restore Me. And then obviously finishing The Hobbit was part of my April TBR. It just went all the way into May. Okay guys, so that is going to be it for today's video. If you have read any of these books, or if you feel the same way about any of these books, or if you want to read any of these books, you should let me know your thoughts down below in the comments. You know I always love to respond and have conversations with you down there, so please hit it up. Let's talk. Other than that, don't forget to check out my Goodreads or my Instagram or Twitter. I'm pretty active on both of those, so if you'd like to see what I'm up to on a day-to-day basis, that's the place to do it. But I'm gonna let you guys go. Have a great morning, noon, evening, day, night, whenever happens to be that you're watching this video, and I will see you in my next one. Bye!